Ubisoft's anticipated addition to the Assassin's Creed series and Assassin's Creed Shadows has left early players both excited and uncertain. Set in a vibrant and detailed world of fueled Japan, the game brings in new characters, fresh mechanics, and a unique storytelling approach. Now, I will be going through all the feedbacks that we have received from players who got an opportunity of playing this game early, summarizing their thoughts, both positives and of course negatives. Early gamers largely agreed that Assassin's Creed Shadows is an ambitious game that tries to push the series forward. It features a dual character system, of course with Yasuke and Naoe, while retaining beloved elements like open world exploration and stealth. However, while many aspects of the game were praised, there were also frustrations with how some features were implemented. So here are some of the key details. One of the main complaints from players is how different Yasuke and Naoe feel in terms of the gameplay. Yasuke is a strong samurai who excels in combat but struggles in stealth and climbing. Naoe, on the other hand, is quick and stealthy but much weaker in the combat. While this contrast was meant to offer a variety, players found it frustrating when missions don't suit their chosen characters. For an example, if a mission involved heavy combat and the player had chosen Naoe, it becomes obviously a little bit more harder to be a little bit more successful. Similarly, Yasuke's lack of agility often made stealth-focused missions less enjoyable. Many felt that the game forced them to situations that didn't match their preferred playstyles. And on top of that, there's always a constant mention that whenever Ubisoft has tried to develop Assassin's Creed Shadows, they constantly mentioned that they did not want players to go into the menu and stay on that. Instead, they wanted them to be always on a constant present during the gameplay. But due to this situation, it seems like Naoe is the better choice from the two. Naoe is best at 2 out of 3 main components. She's better in stealth, she's also better in exploration. But Yasuke is better in the action and combat. But nevertheless, Naoe can still hold her own against the elements that, well, presented to her, as such as the enemies that will be very tough to deal with. But nevertheless, if you're cautious, if you know how to play the game, you can go through a whole this whole game no problem as Naoe. And it seems like Yasuke is just more or less of an afterthought because he has a lot more disadvantages to him rather than being a good protagonist. Now, there's not much relating to the story of an Assassin's Creed Shadows, but the way they have been portraying, at least in terms of the cutscenes and how it was told, well, it wasn't exactly satisfactory. Now, even though the game is a lot more serious in tone, and personally I appreciate that, but there were still some elements that felt, well, lifeless in a lot of ways. Still, of course, this is still early gameplay and a lot of people what they have mentioned, so it is early to mention any of this sort of stuff relating to the story. Now, unfortunately, we also do not know relating to the side activities. Now, while the dual character system was quite an interesting idea, especially since with the differences that you can see here comparing to Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Now, players were still disappointed that they couldn't switch character during the missions. Once the mission begun, they were stuck with that character that they have chosen, even if the mission turned out to be in favor of another character's ability. Now, this lack of flexibility was especially frustrating when unexpected challenges arose. Players often found themselves wishing for a middle ground between Yasuke's strength and Naoe's stealth to handle different situations. I honestly, in my personal opinion, see this could be a little bit of an advantage because you still have to stick on to what you have chosen initially. You can't just have the best of them all. Now, another issue that players pointed out was the game's lighting, particularly in the nighttime sections. Now, environments were often too dark, making it hard to see objectives and navigation effectively. Now, many players had to adjust their brightness settings frequently, which interrupted the immersive experience. Better lighting designs or clearer navigation tools would greatly improve the aspects of the game. I honestly see this not much of an issue since this can still be patched out, and also, by the time this game does release in March, so there's still plenty of time to iron out few things. Despite some of the issues, Assassin's Creed Shadows has received a lot of praise for certain features. Some of these trends show why players remain hopeful for the game's full release. Such as one of the game's biggest achievements, it is the depiction of the feudal Japan. Players love the detailed landscapes, from peaceful temples and busy markets to snowy mountains and dense bamboo forests. And the world feels alive and immersive, capturing the essence of the era. Now, I actually want to touch in a little extra regarding the bamboo forests, just forests in general. I've noticed the way that they've made the forest within Assassin's Creed Shadows was pretty damn incredible, because there's some sections that has been also showcased, like you would think that there's an invisible wall, you cannot enter there, but no, you can, because it's so compact and so chaotic in terms of the trees and forests. You would never really think that it would be a viable choice of actually taking your horse out and going through this forest, because it would be very difficult to navigate, wouldn't it? That's why in a lot of games we see that the forests are not exactly chaotic, and in this case I think they've done a fantastic job of actually introducing a very overgrown forests. Now, the addition of the immersion mode, where players can choose to experience the game in Japanese or Portuguese with historically accurate dialogue, was also highly praised. This feature made the world feel more authentic and was especially appreciated by the history of this city. Now, although it had its challenges, the dual character system was still seen as a fresh and creative idea. Players enjoyed switching between Yasuke's powerful combat style and Naoe's stealthy approach. Now, this variety kept the gameplay interesting and encouraging players to try different strategies. The interactions between Yasuke and Naoe were also a highlight, as has been mentioned. Their contrasting personalities and goals added depth to the story and made their partnership compelling. Another positive aspect was the flexibility of how missions could be completed. Players could choose to approach objectives using stealth, direct combat, or a mix of both. This freedom made missions feel dynamic and gave players a sense of control over their experience. Now, it's important for me to clarify that Assassin's Creed Shadows, at least that what has been experienced in, there is no black box moments within the missions, unfortunately, at least not to a certain degree. Now, I'm not sure if this is actually good or a bad thing. Personally, for me, I consider it a good thing that there is actually no mythical elements. There's no supernatural things within this game. Now, perhaps maybe they will introduce during the DLC, and regarding the cosmetics, microtransactions, well, that's a different story entirely. Player feedback on Assassin's Creed Shadows reveals both excitement and concerns. The game's stunning world, flexible missions, and innovation towards the character system shows great promise. However, issues like character imbalance, a poor lighting needs to be addressed to fully realize its potential. Now, there are a few other things relating that there's some issues, some pros and cons, but again, a lot of things can be ironed out. Ubisoft has an opportunity to refine these elements before the official release, like mentioned, and if they can address these concerns, Assassin's Creed Shadows could become a standout title in the series. But for now, players are cautiously optimistic, eager to see how the final version will improve on this ambitious vision. And I unfortunately did hear quite a lot of people say that Assassin's Creed Shadows is not the game that Ubisoft really needs it to be a pop-off experience. If this game gets the 9s and 10s out of 10s, this could actually save Ubisoft. But because how they have played it early on already, they're already saying this is more like an experience of 7 out of 10, 6 out of 10, maybe an 8 out of 10. So far that they've experienced, this is not exactly good news, to be honest with you. I am quite concerned about that, but nevertheless, we shall see in the future. Thank you so much for watching, like and subscribe, see you guys all, and have a wonderful day.